Verstappen makes a big reveal after a successful race. Lewis Hamilton gets a boost at Ferrari. And all the latest F1 news. Do consider subbing. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today we're diving deep into the future of Formula One, guided by none other than Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff, who has just issued a significant update on the development of the 2026 power units. This isn't just technical talk. This is a story that will define the next era of F1. According to a report from Planet F1, Wolff has been incredibly candid about the challenges his team at HPP, Mercedes high-performance powertrains, is facing. He called the project much more difficult than anyone anticipated. But why? What makes these new regulations such a monumental challenge? Let's break it down. The 2026 power units represent a philosophical shift. The core principles are a 50/50 power split. The internal combustion engine, ICE, and the electrical energy from the MGU-K will contribute roughly equal horsepower. We're looking at over 1,000 bhp total, with around 5,00550 coming from the electric motor alone. That's a massive increase in electrical deployment. Fully sustainable fuels. The ICE will run on a new, advanced sustainable fuel, a key part of F1's plan to be net zero carbon by 2030. This is the big one. The complex and incredibly expensive MGU-H motor generator unit, heat, which harvests energy from the turbocharger, is being eliminated. This was a major barrier to entry for new manufacturers. Manual deployment and active aero drivers will have a strategic button to manually deploy their electrical energy, and cars will feature active aerodynamics, likely movable wings to counteract the drag when the battery is being recharged. So, why is Toto Wolff so concerned? It's the unknown factor. Removing the MGU-H, a technology Mercedes perfected over a decade, levels the playing field in one way, but creates a whole new set of problems. The challenge is energy recovery and management. Without the MGU-H constantly topping up the battery, the MGU-K becomes the sole harvester. This energy comes from braking. But on a high-speed track like Monza or Spa, there are long straights and fewer heavy braking zones. This creates a terrifying scenario dubbed the Berlin Syndrome. Imagine this. A driver is on the final lap, battling for the lead. They've used all their electrical energy on the straight for a boost. They approach a corner, but their battery is completely empty. Because it's empty, the MGU-K can't harvest any energy under braking. The car is now a sitting duck, a victim of its own energy debt. It's sluggish, slow, and utterly defenseless. This is the cliff engineers are terrified of. Wolff's update suggests that simulations are showing these extreme scenarios are a real possibility. The teams and the FIA are now in a frantic race against time to model every circuit, every scenario, to ensure the racing isn't compromised. Will we see cars slowing to a crawl on the last lap? It's a genuine concern. Furthermore, Wolff hints at the immense financial and human resource strain. He said, "The biggest risk for us is splitting resources between the current power unit and the new one. Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault can't afford to take their eye off the ball in 2024 and 2025, or they'll lose to Red Bull. But they also can't fall behind on 2026 development. It's a brutal balancing act." So, what does this mean for us, the fans? On one hand, we have the excitement of a true technical reset. The established order could be shaken up. Audi and Ford, divided by Red Bull, have a chance to start from a clean sheet of paper. On the other hand, we risk a formula where the racing is dictated by complex energy management maps rather than pure driver skill and bravery.
Toto Wolff's warning is not just Mercedes complaining. It's a canary in the coal mine for the entire sport. The 2026 regulations are a bold, necessary, and exciting step forward.
But as with any revolution, there will be teething problems. The hope is that the brilliant minds in F1 can solve the Berlin Syndrome and deliver a power unit formula that is powerful, sustainable, and most importantly, creates fantastic racing. The Nurburgring Nordschleife, the green hell. 12.9 miles of asphalt that demands absolute respect. It's a place that humbles the greatest drivers in the world. And last weekend, while the F1 world was catching its breath after Monza, the reigning three-time world champion Max Verstappen wasn't on a yacht or playing sim racing. He was here, competing in a relatively humble BMW M4 GT4. Why? Welcome back, everyone. Today's story isn't about Formula One championships, DRS, or tire deg. It's about pure, unadulterated passion for driving. According to a report from Planet F1, Max Verstappen quietly slipped into the entry list for the Nurburgring Langstrecken Series, an endurance series on the most fearsome track on Earth. Let's be clear, this is a world away from his Red Bull RB19. The BMW M4 GT4 has about 500 horsepower, weighs over 1,400 kilograms, and has a fraction of the downforce. It's a gentleman driver's car, a GT4 spec machine. For Verstappen, this must have felt like going from flying an F-22 Raptor to piloting a Cessna. But for him, that's the point. This isn't a PR stunt. Red Bull didn't issue a press release. This is Max Verstappen, the driver, needing to drive. It's a reset, a palate cleanser. After the intense pressure of a triple header and the relentless focus of a championship battle, even one he's dominating, the Nürburgring offers a different kind of challenge. One where the only opponent is the track itself. And navigate traffic he did. The beauty of this series is the mix of cars. Verstappen's BMW would have been sharing the track with everything from Porsche 911 Cup cars to tuned Audi TT RS models. The skill isn't just about outright speed. It's about situational awareness, risk management, and immense patience. It's the ultimate test of racecraft. We've heard Max say it 1,000 times. He lives and breathes racing. Sim racing, go-karting, real-world racing. It's all he wants to do. This GT4 outing is a testament to that. It's a throwback to an era where drivers like Jim Clark or Sterling Moss would race anything, anywhere, anytime. In today's hyper-commercialized, ultra-safe F1 world, this kind of extracurricular activity is incredibly rare. Which brings us to a crucial point. Why would Red Bull, who have a billion-dollar asset in their championship-winning driver, allow him to race on the most dangerous track in the world? The answer is trust and psychology. Christian Horner and Dr. Helmut Marko know that a happy, stimulated Max Verstappen is a fast Max Verstappen. Restricting him would be counterproductive. They trust his judgment implicitly. They know he won't take unnecessary risks. For Max, this isn't a risk. It's a calculated exercise in fun and skill building. It keeps his reflexes sharp and his mind engaged in a way no simulator ever could. But let's not downplay the danger. The ring bites. It has claimed lives. Every driver who races there accepts a level of risk that is completely absent in modern F1. For Verstappen to choose to compete here in a lower category car speaks volumes about his character. He isn't wrapped in cotton wool. He's a racer's racer. In a way, this story is a beautiful contrast to the high-stakes drama of F1. There were no World Championship points on the line. No heated radio messages about strategy. Just a driver, a car, and a legendary track. It's a reminder of what lies at the core of every great Formula One driver. A simple, burning, uncontrollable love for the act of driving itself. It was one of the most controversial moments of the Dutch Grand Prix weekend. A brutal penalty that destroyed a driver's race before it even began. But then, in an almost unprecedented move, the FIA's Court of Appeal, the right of review, was triggered, and the verdict was overturned. This is the story of Ferrari versus FIA, the FIA stewards, and the new evidence that changed everything. Welcome everyone to what might be the most legally complex story we've ever covered on this channel. The saga of Carlos Sainz's overturned penalty at Zandvoort is a masterclass in F1's judicial process, and it sets a fascinating precedent for the future. According to Planet F1, Ferrari successfully argued their case, and Sainz's grid drop was completely removed. But how? Let's set the scene. A wet and wild qualifying at Zandvoort. Carlos Sainz, on a flying lap, loses control of his Ferrari at the final corner, crashes into the tire barrier, and brings out the red flag. The session is stopped. The stewards, following standard procedure, investigate and hand Sainz a 5-place grid penalty for unnecessarily impeding another driver. The problem? The other driver was himself. The initial ruling was based on the precedent that causing a red flag typically results in a penalty, especially if it ruins other drivers' laps. It seemed cut and dried. But Ferrari were incensed. They argued it was a simple mistake in treacherous conditions, not a reckless act. They felt the penalty was grossly unfair. But to appeal, they needed something more. They needed new, significant, and relevant evidence. This is the key. The right of review under Article 14 of the International Sporting Code isn't a simple appeal. You can't just say, "We disagree." You must present evidence that was not available to the stewards at the time of their decision. Ferrari went away, put their heads together, and came back with a three-pronged attack. Evidence has shown detailed telemetry. Ferrari presented a deeper dive into Sainz's telemetry, showing his throttle, brake, and steering inputs. They proved he was not applying any unusual or erratic inputs. He was driving a normal lap for the conditions. The crash was a result of aquaplaning and a loss of grip on a known wet patch, not driver error. Evidence #2, comparable incidents. They presented data from other drivers, notably Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu, who had similar moments at the same corner, nearly losing control in the exact same way. They argued that Sainz's accident was a predictable incident due to the track conditions, not an anomaly caused by him. Evidence #3, GPS data. This was potentially the clincher. Ferrari used GPS data to map the trajectories of all cars through that corner. They showed that every driver was taking a wider line, closer to the standing water on the outside of the track, because the traditional racing line was too slippery. Sainz wasn't offline. He was on the only viable line. Armed with this new data, Ferrari argued that the incident was a force majeure, an unavoidable accident. The stewards reconvened and agreed. They stated that the new evidence provided a significant new context that was not available before. They concluded that no driver could have avoided the accident in those specific conditions, and therefore no penalty was warranted. This is a huge decision. It moves the stewarding process away from a simple, "you caused a red flag, you get a penalty" binary system, and towards a more nuanced, evidence-based approach. It acknowledges that context is everything. A crash born of recklessness is one thing. A crash born of extreme weather is another. However, it also opens a can of worms. Will every team now be expected to bring a full forensics team to every session to contest penalties? Does this set a precedent that makes penalties for red flags harder to enforce? The stewards were careful to say this decision is specific to the unique circumstances of Zandvoort, but it's a landmark case. In the end, justice was served for Carlos Sainz. A harsh penalty was rectified. This story shows that while the FIA system can sometimes feel inflexible, the right of review exists as a crucial safety valve to correct mistakes. It's a win for common sense and detailed analysis over rash judgment. Formula One and spy scandals are a tale as old as time. From the Stepneygate saga of 2007 to the infamous Crashgate, the pursuit of a competitive advantage often blurs the lines of ethics and legality. And now a new chapter is being written, one that involves the sport's biggest star, a defecting engineer, and a box of mysterious documents. Today's story is ripped straight from an espionage thriller. According to a report from Planet F1, a figure from Lewis Hamilton's past at McLaren has resurfaced in a major way, raising questions about one of the most significant driver moves in history. Hamilton's switch from McLaren to Mercedes in 2013. The central question: did he bring Ferrari secrets with him? The man at the center of this is Neil Martin. In the mid-2000 seconds, Martin was a key performance engineer at McLaren, working directly with a young Lewis Hamilton. He was deeply embedded in the team's technical operations. Then, in 2006, he made a controversial move to rivals Ferrari. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Martin's time at Ferrari was short-lived. He left in 2008, a period that coincided with the fallout from the Stepneygate scandal, where Ferrari technical information was found at McLaren. While there's no suggestion Martin was involved in that, his move was part of a turbulent time. The new report suggests that when Martin left Ferrari, he may have taken certain technical documents with him, a not uncommon practice in F1, though strictly forbidden. He later joined Red Bull, but the key allegation is that he potentially shared insights from those Ferrari documents with his old protege Lewis Hamilton during the 2012 to 2013 period. Why does this matter? Because in 2013, Lewis Hamilton made the shocking decision to leave the competitive McLaren for a struggling Mercedes team. At the time, pundits called it a mistake. But Hamilton saw the potential of the upcoming 2014 turbo hybrid engine regulations. What if he had more than just a hunch? What if he had insider knowledge of what a top team like Ferrari was not focusing on? The theory goes like this. If Martin had information that Ferrari was underestimating the 2014 engine formula or focusing their resources in the wrong areas, that intelligence would be priceless. It would give Mercedes the confidence that they could outdevelop their rivals. And history proves they did, embarking on a period of unprecedented dominance. Now, let's be very, very clear. This is, for now, a theory based on circumstantial evidence and paddock gossip. There is no public evidence that Lewis Hamilton ever received or saw any confidential Ferrari documents. Neil Martin has not been accused of any wrongdoing by the FIA. This story lives in the shadowy world of what if. Furthermore, the success of Mercedes was down to a Herculean effort from hundreds of brilliant engineers, led by figures like Andy Cowell, Paddy Lowe, and James Allison. To attribute their success to a few leaked documents would be a massive disservice to their work. However, this story highlights a constant truth in F1. Information is currency. The movement of personnel between teams is the lifeblood of technical development, and with that movement comes knowledge, sometimes explicit, sometimes just ingrained experience. The line between leveraging experience and exploiting confidential data is notoriously thin. So, did Lewis Hamilton use a Ferrari blueprint to build his Mercedes dynasty? The likely answer is no, not in any direct, provable way. But did the general intelligence and experience of someone who had been inside Ferrari's technical operations help inform one of the biggest decisions of his career? It's not just possible, it's probable. This isn't a scandal. It's the brutal, intelligent, and often gray area reality of Formula One. A recent comment from Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula One, sent shockwaves through the fan base. He suggested that the sport should consider shortening some race distances to make the product more exciting. The backlash was immediate and fierce. But now, as reported by Planet F1, Domenicali has moved to clarify his comments. So what did he really say? And is there any merit to this idea? The initial outrage was understandable. Fans felt it was a pandering move, a dilution of the sport's purity to cater to a hypothetical TikTok generation with a 10-second attention span. The essence of F1, they argued, is the strategic marathon, the management of tires and fuel across 2 hours. Shortening it would make it a mere sprint. Domenicali's clarification is crucial. He is not proposing shortening the Grand Prix distance of established events like Monaco, Silverstone, or Monza. Instead, he's talking about new venues, particularly those in new markets like the United States. His argument is nuanced. He points out that for a new audience, unfamiliar with F1, a 2-hour race can be a big ask. The idea is to create a more digestible, action-packed product for new fans at new events, making it an easier entry point into the sport. Think of it as a gateway drug to the full Grand Prix experience. The case for shorter races, accessibility. A 45-minute to 1-hour race is less intimidating for casual viewers. Pacing. It could force teams to be aggressive from the start, eliminating conservative pacing. Experimentation. It could be tried at 2 to 3 events a year without harming the traditional calendar. The case against shorter races, erosion of tradition. F1 is not a sprint series. Its identity is built on endurance. Strategy becomes obsolete. No tire deg, no fuel management, no long game strategy. It becomes a pure, flat-out sprint. A slippery slope. If it works for new races, what's to stop them from applying it to classic tracks? The fear, of course, is homogenization. We already have the sprint format, which is a shortened race. Do we need another variation? The risk is confusing the product. What does a world championship point even mean if the challenges are so different week to week? However, Domenicali's point about attracting new audiences is valid. F1's growth in the US is phenomenal, but it's built on the drive to survive drama, not a deep understanding of a 2-stop versus a 1-stop strategy. A shorter, more explosive race format might be the perfect hook to turn those casual fans into hardcore enthusiasts who then appreciate the nuance of a full Grand Prix. This isn't a black and white issue. It's a balancing act between preserving the sport's core identity and innovating for future growth. Perhaps the solution isn't shorter races, but better storytelling during the broadcast to make the 2-hour journey more engaging for newcomers. The debate is healthy, and it shows that F1 is actively thinking about its future, which is a good thing. Today's script is different. It's not about lap times or technical regulations. It's about the moment global sporting events intersect with real-world events of profound significance. A report from Motorsport.com details how the news impacted not just F1, but the MotoGP and MotoE events happening the same weekend, leading to unprecedented suspensions. For Formula One, the situation was incredibly complex. The sport is deeply rooted in the UK. 7 of the 10 teams are based there. Thousands of employees, from engineers to mechanics, are British citizens. The sport's commercial rights holder, Liberty Media, is American, but its heart beats in England. The FIA and F1 management were faced with an impossible decision. Do they cancel the entire event as a mark of respect? Do they postpone qualifying? Or do they continue, acknowledging that the show must go on? There was no rule book for this. After urgent consultations, the decision was made. Friday's practice sessions were canceled. A minute of silence was held in the paddock. The F1 community, a microcosm of the world, came together to pay its respects. The racing would continue, but under a cloud of solemnity. It was a compromise between respect and practicality. Meanwhile, at the Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli in Italy, the MotoGP and MotoE championships faced the same dilemma. Their response was different. The FIM, the International Motorcycle Federation, took the decision to suspend the entire Saturday schedule, including qualifying for all classes. The MotoE races, scheduled for that day, were postponed. Why the different response? The reasons are nuanced. MotoGP has a different governing body and a different cultural footprint. Furthermore, the MotoE Championship was running a dedicated event that weekend, making rescheduling a more complex logistical nightmare. Their decision to fully suspend activities was a clear, unambiguous statement of respect. In both cases, the reactions from the participants were universally understanding and respectful. Riders and drivers, many of whom are not British, understood the global significance of the moment. It was a powerful reminder that while they are fierce competitors, they are also part of a global community. This story is less about the act of suspension and more about the process. It shows the immense pressure on sports organizers in the modern era. Every decision is scrutinized. Do too little, and you're accused of being disrespectful. Do too much, and you're accused of virtue signaling. There is no perfect answer. The handling of the Queen's passing by F1 and MotoGP was a case study in crisis management.
It was measured, respectful, and prioritized people over spectacle.
It showed that these massive sporting organizations, for all their commercialism, do have a soul and an understanding of their place in the world. It was a strange weekend. The roar of engines was replaced by a respectful silence, and for a brief moment, the result of a Grand Prix felt entirely insignificant. It was a poignant reminder of what truly matters. In the high-stakes world of Formula One, the difference between victory and defeat is measured in milliseconds. A gust of wind, a tiny setup change, a different strategy call. But how do teams prepare for every single possible scenario? The answer lies in the digital realm, with a terrifyingly advanced tool known as the Ghost Car. Welcome, tech fans. A fascinating report from Motorsport.com has given us a glimpse into the secret weapon every top F1 team is using to develop their 2025 cars right now. It's not a new wind tunnel or a supercomputer, though it uses both. It's a revolutionary simulation technique that is fundamentally changing how F1 cars are born. We all know about CFD and simulators. Engineers design parts, test them in virtual wind tunnels, and then drivers test them in simulators. But the ghost car method takes this to a whole new level. It's not about testing your car. It's about testing your car against a perfect digital replica of your rival's car. Imagine this. Mercedes is developing their 2025 chassis. They have a pretty good idea, based on public data and clever inference, what the Red Bull RB21's aerodynamic philosophy island. Their engineers create a digital ghost of that Red Bull, a best-guess simulation of its performance. Now, they don't just run their Mercedes against this Red Bull ghost on an empty track. They run thousands of simulations. They change the weather. They change the tire compounds. They simulate the Mercedes following the ghost car through corners to see how its aerodynamics are disrupted. They simulate the ghost car following the Mercedes. They test every strategic permutation: undercuts, overcuts, safety cars. This allows them to answer questions they could never answer before. If we bring this new front wing to Silverstone, will it allow us to stay close enough to a Red Bull in the high-speed corners to attempt an overtake? If we qualify behind a Ferrari on a street circuit, will our race pace be enough to overcut them? It moves development from a solitary pursuit to a reactive one. The goal is to find those thousandths of a second. The ghost car simulations might reveal that a certain rear wing design is great for clean air, but terrible when following another car. So they might sacrifice a bit of ultimate qualifying pace for a much stronger race car. This is how teams find performance that is invisible to the naked eye. The ghost car methodology explains why development wars in modern F1 are so intense. It's no longer enough to just make your car faster. You have to make your car faster in the context of what your rivals are doing. It's a perpetual digital arms race happening in server farms across the UK and Italy. This is also why the cost cap is so brutal. You can't just throw money at the problem and build 10 different wings to test. You have to be smarter with your limited resources. The ghost car simulation allows you to virtually test those 10 wings against a simulated rival, so when you finally commit to manufacturing one, you have the highest confidence it will work on Sunday. The story of the 2025 championship is being written right now, not on track, but in the digital shadows of these ghost cars. It's a breathtaking display of technology and intelligence. The team that best simulates its rival's performance and best optimizes its own car to counter it will likely be holding the trophy aloft at the end of next year. The debate over an 11th team has been one of the most contentious in recent F1 history. The existing teams have been almost universally opposed, fearing a dilution of their prize money. But according to Motorsport.com, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has broken ranks, throwing his full support behind Andretti's entry, calling F1's expansion amazing. Hamilton's stance is fascinating because it pits him against his own team and his own boss, Toto Wolff, who has been one of the most vocal opponents of expansion. So, why would Hamilton take this position? It's a mix of driver mentality, long-term vision, and perhaps a bit of rebellion. From a pure racing perspective, Hamilton's argument is simple. More cars make a better spectacle. A 22-car grid means more battles throughout the field, more potential for drama, and a more challenging race for the top drivers. It's a purist's viewpoint. The team's opposition is purely financial. The current Concord Agreement, the contract that governs F1, guarantees a certain share of the sport's colossal revenue to each team. Adding an 11th team means that share gets smaller for everyone. They argue a new team must add enough value to increase the overall revenue pie enough to compensate for their slice. Andretti and Cadillac argue they do add that value. They bring the legendary Andretti name, a huge American fan base, and the manufacturing might of General Motors. This isn't some fly-by-night operation. It's a serious commitment from an automotive giant. They argue that their presence will grow the sport in the crucial U.S. market, making the overall pie bigger for everyone. Hamilton seems to side with this argument. He sees the bigger picture. He understands that for F1 to continue its global growth, especially in America, having a true American team with a legendary name and a major manufacturer is worth more in the long run than a slightly fatter short-term check for the existing teams. Hamilton's support is significant. As the sport's biggest global star, His voice carries immense weight with the fans and with Liberty Media. It puts pressure on the other team principals. It frames their opposition as greedy and short-sighted, while positioning Hamilton as a fan-focused visionary. Of course, it's easy for Hamilton to say this. He's a driver. He doesn't have to worry about his team's bottom line. But his willingness to publicly disagree with the team boss who helped him win 6 world championships shows how strongly he feels about this. It's a principled stand. The 11th team debate is a classic battle between short-term greed and long-term growth. Lewis Hamilton, perhaps freed from the constraints of team politics as he heads to Ferrari, is planting his flag firmly on the side of growth. He believes a bigger, more competitive grid is essential for the soul of the sport he loves. And it's hard to argue with that. A deep dive report from Motorsport.com reveals how Laurent Mekies, who joined Red Bull as the team boss earlier this year, is already having a profound impact on the operation. This isn't about designing a faster car. It's about refining the machine around the car to make it unbeatable. Mekies' background is unique. He's been a race engineer, a FIA safety director, and most recently, the racing director and then team principal at Ferrari. He has experience on both the regulatory and the competitive sides of the sport. He knows the rules inside and out, and he knows how Ferrari thinks. For Red Bull, this is intelligence gold. His first-hand experience at Ferrari during their recent strategic struggles is invaluable. He knows their decision-making processes, their strengths, and, crucially, their weaknesses. He can now help Red Bull anticipate Ferrari's moves on race day, effectively giving them the opponent's playbook. But his impact is more than just espionage. Reports suggest Mekies is streamlining Red Bull's race operations. He's bringing a new level of rigorous analysis to their strategic preparations. He's challenging assumptions and implementing new protocols to ensure that the kind of strategic errors that sometimes plagued Ferrari could never happen at Red Bull. Red Bull already has the best car and the best driver. The gains now are in the margins. A fraction of a second in a pit stop. A perfectly timed strategic call, maximizing every single point opportunity. This is where Mekies operates. He is the final layer of polish on an already gleaming operation. Furthermore, his extensive experience at the FIA is a huge asset. He understands how to navigate the complex political and regulatory landscape of the sport. He knows how to present a case to the stewards effectively. He knows what is and isn't acceptable within the rules, potentially giving Red Bull an edge in off-track disputes. This move also signals long-term planning. Christian Horner is a very Red Bull, legendary team principal, but he can't be there forever. Bringing in a high-caliber, experienced figure like Mekies provides incredible depth to the leadership team. It ensures stability and continuity for the future, making Red Bull less reliant on any single individual. The hiring of Laurent Mekies is a statement of intent from Red Bull. It shows that they are not just focused on beating their rivals this year, they are focused on building an empire that can dominate for a decade. They have taken a key piece from their closest historical competitor and used it to strengthen their own fortress. For the rest of the grid, it's a terrifying prospect. The rise of Oscar Piastri has been phenomenal. He's gone from a rookie to a race winner in under 2 seasons, often matching and sometimes beating his established teammate Lando Norris. This has led to a wave of speculation. Is McLaren favoring one driver over the other? According to a report from Planet F1, CEO Zack Brown has had enough, and he's addressing the theories head-on. The theories are everywhere. McLaren pitted Lando first to cover off another car, but it compromised Oscar's race. They gave Oscar the new upgrade first because they favor him. Lando was told not to fight Oscar. In the hyper-analytic world of F1 fandom, every decision is dissected for signs of bias. Zack Brown's message is simple and direct: cut it out. He has explicitly stated that McLaren has a policy of absolute equality. Both drivers get the same equipment, the same strategic opportunities, and the same instruction: race fair, but race hard. He attributes any perceived imbalance to the natural flow of a race, not to team orders. Let's be real. Strategy in F1 is not about picking a favorite driver in a vacuum. It's a reactive game of chess. If Lando is ahead and a rival behind pits, you pit Lando to cover them off. That might inadvertently compromise Oscar's strategy, but it's done to protect the team's overall position, not to help Lando specifically. Furthermore, staggering upgrades is a standard practice. You can't always produce two new front wings at the exact same time. Sometimes one driver gets it first to gather data before committing to a second copy. This is logistics, not favoritism. Brown also points to the driver's relationship itself. Unlike the frosty Hamilton-Rosberg dynamic of the past, Norris and Piastri appeared to have a strong, respectful, and even friendly relationship. They push each other on track, but seem to leave the rivalry there. A toxic driver pairing is a team's worst nightmare. A competitive but healthy one is a dream. Zack Brown is smart to address this now. Letting these conspiracy theories fester can become a cancer within a team. It can create distrust between the driver and the engineers. By being transparent and shutting it down publicly, he reinforces the team's culture of unity and performance. The truth is, McLaren is in an envious position. They have two of the best drivers on the grid, both capable of winning races. Their job is to manage that competition to maximize Constructors' Championship points. Sometimes, that means making tough calls that benefit one driver in the short term, but the goal is always the long-term health of the team. The Norris-Piastri rivalry is one of the most exciting stories in F1, but it's a sporting rivalry, not a political one. Zack Brown's comments are a welcome dose of reality, reminding us that McLaren's success is built on a foundation of teamwork, and that's something they will fiercely protect. The King of Chaos is back in motorsport, but not where we expected. As reported by Motorsport.com, Gunther Steiner has chosen MotoGP over F1 for his return, taking on an advisory role with the Trackhouse Racing team. In a revealing interview, he explained exactly why the two-wheeled world was more appealing than a return to the F1 paddock. On the surface, it seems like a strange fit. Steiner is synonymous with F1, but his reasoning is incredibly smart and self-aware. He said that in modern F1, under the budget cap, the role of a team principal has fundamentally changed. It's become more corporate, more focused on financial regulations and political maneuvering, and less about the raw, hands-on running of a race team. Steiner is a builder, a motivator, a character. He thrives on the operational chaos of a race weekend. The budget cap, while great for the sport, has shifted the team principal's role towards being a CFO first and a racing boss second. That, according to Steiner, just isn't him. It's not what he enjoys. MotoGP, by comparison, represents a new challenge. The series is growing rapidly, especially in the US. Trackhouse Racing is a new, ambitious American team. The environment is less rigid, less political, and more focused on pure racing and brand building. For Steiner, it's a chance to get back to his roots, building something from the ground up and having a direct, visible impact. He also doesn't have the immense pressure of being the team principal. As an advisor, he can lend his vast experience in marketing, sponsorship, and operations without being the one ultimately responsible for every decision. It's a lower stress, higher reward role for someone of his profile. There's also the appeal of a different culture. The MotoGP paddock is known for being more accessible and less formal than F1. For a personality like Steiner who connects with people on a human level, it might be a more natural fit. He can be the charismatic Gunther, without the constant pressure of fighting for survival at the back of the grid. This move is a telling indictment of the modern F1 team principal role. It's not enough to be a great racing mind. You now need to be a financial expert, a lawyer, and a politician. Steiner's skill set is more aligned with the entrepreneurial spirit of a series like MotoGP, which is still in a growth phase. Furthermore, it's a brilliant business move for both parties. Trackhouse gets a global celebrity who knows how to attract sponsors and manage a team. Steiner gets a new challenge in an exciting series without the immense burden he carried at Haas. It's a win-win. Gunther Steiner's move to MotoGP is more than just a career change. It's a symbol of the evolution of Formula One. The era of the charismatic, lone wolf team boss is fading, replaced by a more corporate, system-driven approach. But for those who miss the chaos and the character, you can now find it on two wheels. And we can't wait to hear his first Foxmash moment over a MotoGP team radio. The story of Colton Herta and a Cadillac-backed F1 entry is one of the most compelling in motorsport. As detailed by Motorsport.com, it's a story that represents America's best chance to finally crack the F1 code. But it's trapped between the sport's rigid rules and its immense financial barriers. Let's talk about Colton Herta. In the eyes of many, including Red Bull's Dr. Helmut Marko, he is the most talented American driver in a generation. His raw speed in IndyCar is undeniable. He holds the record for the youngest winner in IndyCar history. He has the talent, the personality, and the marketability to be a huge star in F1. The problem? The FIA's super license points system. To qualify for a license to race in F1, a driver must accumulate 40 points over a 3-year period based on their finishing positions in other championships. IndyCar is rated highly, but a few inconsistent seasons from Herta left him just short of the required total. Despite his obvious talent, the bureaucratic box couldn't be ticked. The solution? A full works-backed American team. Andretti Global, with backing from General Motors and Cadillac, has applied to be the 11th team on the grid. Their plan would be to sign Herta as their lead driver. This wouldn't just be a team, it would be a statement of American intent. But here's the $700 million problem. The current Concord agreement includes an anti-dilution fee. Any new team must pay a $700 million fee to be split among the existing 10 teams to compensate them for the dilution of their prize money. It's a colossal barrier to entry, designed to protect the incumbents. For Andretti and Cadillac, it's a catch-22. They need to pay the fee to get in, but paying the fee means they have $700 million less to spend on actually building a competitive team. It's a huge gamble. So, can this bid be a game changer? Absolutely. A true American team with a major manufacturer and a talented American driver is the final piece of the puzzle for F1's American conquest. It would galvanize the fan base like nothing else. But the opposition from the existing teams is fierce, and the financial hurdle is enormous. The Herta Cadillac story is a microcosm of F1's internal conflict. The sport wants to grow in America, but the existing teams are reluctant to share the wealth. It's a battle between the potential for long-term, massive growth and the security of short-term profitability. For the sake of the sport's global appeal, you have to hope they find a way. Because an F1 grid without an American team and a top American driver feels incomplete. The dream is alive, but it's hanging in the balance. In a moving and personal revelation reported by Planet F1, renowned Sky F1 presenter Natalie Pinkham has disclosed that she recently underwent major neck surgery. Her story is a stark reminder of the unseen challenges faced by those who bring us the sport we love, and it sparked an important conversation about health in the broadcast industry. The details are private, but Pinkham revealed the surgery was to address a long-standing issue that had been exacerbated by the intense travel schedule and physical demands of the F1 circus. Think about it. Long-haul flights across time zones, carrying heavy equipment, spending hours on your feet on the grid, often in extreme heat or humidity. It's a punishing routine. The modern F1 calendar is a 24-race marathon. For the drivers and teams, it's tough. For the media, who often have to travel on commercial flights and don't have the same recovery resources, it can be brutal. Jet lag, irregular sleep, and constant stress can wear down even the healthiest individuals. And Pinkham's role is particularly demanding. As a pit lane reporter, she's on the front lines. She's jostling for position in a crowded pit lane, running to grab interviews, and often contorting herself to get the perfect shot or soundbite. It's a physically active job that requires immense stamina and resilience. Her decision to speak out is incredibly important. It shines a light on the fact that while we see the glamorous end product, a huge amount of physical sacrifice goes into creating it. It helps to destigmatize talking about health issues in a high-performance environment. The outpouring of support from the F1 community, fans, drivers, and colleagues alike has been wonderful to see. It shows how respected and valued Pinkham Island. Her professionalism is such that many viewers likely had no idea she was dealing with such a significant health challenge. Her story is a reminder to all of us, whether in F1 or not, to prioritize our health. No job is worth sacrificing your long-term well-being. It also should prompt employers in high-pressure industries like sports media to ensure they are providing adequate support for their staff's physical and mental health. We wish Natalie Pinkham a speedy and full recovery. The Sky F1 coverage isn't the same without her insightful questions and bright presence on the grid. She is a vital part of the F1 family, and her health is far more important than any race weekend. In a fascinating interview with Sky Sports, the 2016 world champion Nico Rosberg was asked about the burgeoning rivalry between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri at McLaren. His response was telling. He said it reminded him of his own dynamic with Lewis Hamilton, and he issued a stark warning about what happens when a title is on the line. Rosberg speaks from a place of unique experience. He and Hamilton managed to keep their rivalry mostly professional for years, but when the championship became a direct fight between them, the friendly tension snapped. It became all-consuming, both on and off the track. Rosberg's point is that right now, Norris and Piastri are in the friendly competition phase. They're fighting for race wins, but the ultimate goal, the World Championship, is still out of reach, dominated by Max Verstappen. This allows them to race hard, but still maintain a friendship. But what happens, Rosberg asks, if McLaren produces a car capable of winning the championship? What if, in 2025 or 2026, it's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri as the only two drivers mathematically able to win the title? The dynamic will change overnight. The team instructions will become more pointed. Every point will be precious. The pressure will be immense. Rosberg recalls the little things that became big things, the mind games, the questioning of team orders, the feeling that the team might be favoring one driver over the other. It creates a toxic atmosphere that can poison a team from within. It requires an incredibly strong team principle to manage it. Zack Brown has said his drivers are free to race. But Rosberg's warning is that this policy is easy to maintain when you're fighting for third and fourth. It becomes almost impossible to maintain when you're fighting for first and second. The team will be forced to make choices that will inevitably favor one driver's strategy over the others. Is McLaren ready for that? Is the friendship between Lando and Oscar strong enough to withstand that pressure? Rosberg's experience suggests that no friendship island, the desire to become a world champion, overrides everything. Nico Rosberg isn't predicting doom. He's offering a reality check. The Norris-Piastri partnership is F1's most exciting double act. But with great pace comes great responsibility, and eventually, great conflict. The true test of McLaren's revival won't just be building a fast car. It will be managing the titanic clash between its two phenomenal drivers when that car is fast enough to win it all. Do you think Lando and Oscar could handle a title fight, or would it end their friendship? Let me know your predictions below. And subscribe for more expert analysis. In the aftermath of Max Verstappen's crushing victory at Monza, a record-breaking 10th win in a row, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff didn't talk about upgrades or strategy. Instead, as reported by Sky Sports, he looked into the cameras and paid Verstappen the ultimate backhanded compliment. He said the Dutchman had made everybody look stupid. Let's unpack this. This is more than just praise for a driver's skill. This is an admission of total and utter defeat from one of the sport's most competitive figures. The word stupid implies a failure of intelligence, of strategy, of understanding. Wolff is saying that despite all the data, all the simulations, all the effort, Verstappen and Red Bull are operating on a level they simply cannot comprehend. What makes this Red Bull dominance so demoralizing for rivals is its adaptability. They've won on high downforce street circuits, Monaco, Singapore, on flowing circuits, Silverstone, and now on low downforce power circuits, Monza. There is no weakness to exploit. They are perfect everywhere. Wolff's comment reveals the psychological toll this is taking on the entire grid. When you throw your best punch and your opponent doesn't even flinch, it makes you question everything you're doing. It can lead to desperation, to radical card changes that might not work, to internal strife. Wolff is verbalizing the helplessness every non-Red Bull team is feeling. For Verstappen personally, this is the highest form of praise. To have a giant of the sport like Toto Wolff, who presided over Mercedes' own period of dominance, acknowledge your superiority in such stark terms is a testament to his otherworldly talent and focus. But there's a second layer to Wolff's comment. By saying everybody, he's also spreading the blame. He's pointing out that it's not just Mercedes failing. It's Ferrari. It's Aston Martin. It's McLaren. Everyone has been made to look foolish by the sheer brilliance of the Red Bull package. It's a shared misery. This kind of honesty is rare in the PR-controlled world of F1. It's a moment of raw, unfiltered frustration. It tells the fans that the teams understand the lack of competition and are just as frustrated by it as we are. But it also serves as a motivator. Admitting you have a problem is the first step to solving it. Toto Wolff's admission was a shocking moment of truth. It confirmed what we all suspected, that Red Bull and Verstappen are in a league of their own, and the rest are just fighting for scraps. The question now is, how long will this feeling last? And what will it take for someone to finally make Red Bull look, well, not stupid, but human? The story of Kimi Antonelli is one of immense hype and expectation, tipped for greatness since his karting days. He's been fast-tracked through Mercedes' junior program. But as reported by Sky Sports, after a tough weekend in Italian F4, Mercedes boss Toto Wolff offered some surprising public criticism of the young driver's performance. This has raised a major question. Is this tough love, or is it adding fuel to the fire? Let's be clear. Antonelli is a phenomenal talent. His record speaks for itself. But motorsport is a brutal meritocracy. Even the best have off weekends. The issue is that Antonelli is not racing in a vacuum. He's racing under the microscope of being the next big thing, the potential heir to Lewis Hamilton's throne at Mercedes. Wolff's comments, while likely intended as constructive, were made in the full glare of the media. He pointed out that Antonelli had a weekend to forget, and that he needed to learn from his mistakes. For a 17-year-old, that kind of public assessment from your future boss could be crushing. Why would Wolff do this? There are two theories. The first is that it's a genuine attempt at management to keep the young driver grounded, to remind him that success is not a given and that he must work for it. The second, more cynical theory, is that it's a deliberate tactic to lower his market value, to scare off other teams who might be interested in signing him. If Antonelli is seen as struggling under pressure, other teams might be less willing to poach him, allowing Mercedes to sign him to a long-term contract for a lower price. It's a ruthless but clever business tactic in the cutthroat world of driver management. However, the risk is enormous. Public criticism can shatter a young driver's confidence. It can make them second-guess themselves, leading to more mistakes. The pressure to perform for Mercedes is already immense. Adding public scrutiny from Toto Wolff himself could be counterproductive. The best practice has often been to protect young drivers from the media spotlight, to let them develop away from the hype. Wolff's approach is the opposite. He is putting Antonelli in the deep end, testing his mental resilience as much as his driving skill. Is Kimi Antonelli the next Max Verstappen, able to thrive under pressure from a young age? Or will the weight of expectation from Toto Wolff and Mercedes prove to be too much? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. His journey to F1 will be one of the most closely watched and fascinating stories in the coming years. Do you think Toto's public criticism is a good idea? Or should he keep it behind closed doors? Let me know your thoughts below, and subscribe for more on the future stars of F1.